What up? It's your boy T-Man Reaction. Today's from Friday, about to get into the Damn Kill Count though. So this week, I asked, this is free. I call this free week, where I get free time to do any kill count I want, aside from the usual scheduled poll week, franchise weeks, or alternative poll weeks as well too. So the options I gave y'all is either one, continue my franchise with either continue the franchise of continue my finish off the two of my series. One was the collective series with collection, or finish the House of 3, or start a new franchise, which is the Hannibal franchise, starting with Silence of the Lamb. Or two other options I had was pick a kill count from any poll, either the main or alternative poll, or free a kill count from an additional poll, with 50% of y'all votes. I don't know if I can get it real quick. Majority of y'all want me to start the Hannibal series, and I will do that. Start with the infinite classic, Silence of the Lamb. Let's start it all. So, Silence of the Lamb, one of the iconic films for both Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins, but aka Hannibal Lecter. So, without further ado, we want to check out this cult classic that started a franchise. So, as well as some parodies as well too. One from South Park and many others, and there's some iconic moments as well too. So, let's get it.
Welcome to the Kill Count place, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies and show you how they were made. Sorry. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at The Silence of the Lambs, released in 1991. It's based on the book of the same name, which was Thomas Harris's follow-up to Red Dragon. But this isn't a sequel to Manhunter. Rather, it's an adaptation of the follow-up book to that movie's source material. Silence of the Lambs follows FBI...
Okay, so a lot of folks say Manhunter was kind of part of that, so I will do this, but do any of y'all think I should hop on Manhunter 2? Comment down below. As added to do it after that or later on down the line. But anyway, let's keep going. That explains a lot.
FBI training Clarice Starling, played by a 27-year-old Jodie Foster. Starling is a gifted student who's pulled into the hunt for Buffalo Bill, a serial killer with a penchant for skinning his victims. Unlike Manhunter's Will Graham, Clarice has no real authority and is constantly framed in claustrophobic, overbearing shots. It's way different than the open environments we often saw Graham in. Clarice is always underestimated by the men around her, and she has to constantly prove herself to them. And this theme isn't subtle. I promise that if this movie came out today, a bunch of grifters on YouTube would be yelling that it's woke. Aiding in Starling's investigation is Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant psychiatrist and chronic people eater. Here, Lecter is played by Anthony Hopkins, who nabbed a Best Leading Actor Oscar for the role despite only 24 minutes of screen time. In fact, Silence of the Lambs cleaned up at the Academy Awards. It's the third of only 3 movies to win the so-called Big Five, taking home Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor, and a writing win for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Nice.
It is the only horror movie to ever win the Oscar for Best Picture, which I think speaks to its broad appeal. As mentioned in the Manhunter kill count, despite the two movies sharing characters, they're entirely different in pretty much every other way. I think Silence is a more mainstream movie, and that's not a judgment of quality.
I should have asked y'all, should I start with Manhunter first? How to think about that? If not, I'll do it right after this. I'll hold off on the other ones and do it right after this.
I just don't know how else to put it. Manhunter is an art piece compared to this film. Compared to Michael Mann's film, the characters in Silence are much more overstated. Buffalo Bill's more of a bombastic maniac than Francis Dollarhide, and characters like Crawford and Chilton stand out a lot more, as opposed to being just, guys. I mean, Farina rules, but still, he's kind of just a guy. As much as I love Manhunter, there's no denying that Silence of the Lambs is awesome. There's a reason that every other scene in this thing has been parodied and referenced to high hell. Hopkins' Hannibal is an icon of horror villains, and Clarice Starling is one of my favorite film protagonists ever. It's not only considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time, but one of the greatest movies, period. It's about damn time we cover it on this show. Will Silence of the Lambs have more... Oh, sorry. I was wondering when you'd call.
Hello, Jamothy. I hear there's been another incident. Imagine my disappointment that you didn't come and see me.
And I won't be, you sick son of a bitch. But I do need your expertise.
Well, that does sound like quite the pickle.
Not at all. I can send you everything you need from right here, thanks to our partner, WeTransfer. WeTransfer helps 80 million users a month share and send big files all around the world.
I actually have experience with WeTransfer. A lot of like production kits I got use WeTransfer, so this is a good one.
And it's made for both individuals and teams.
I see, that is a solution. Ah, but this is still such sensitive material, and sending it over the internet where anyone could intercept it.
Please, I'm no fool. WeTransfer allows you to password protect any transfer.
Ah, I see. Nonetheless, I'm afraid I'm not one for all this data sharing. Wouldn't want my personal information going to the wrong people.
Hold on a second. You know what? I'm gonna do this right. I must want to do Songs of the Lamb, and God information got to start right now. It went for right advice. If I'm looking at it right now, it went for right. I'll start from the very beginning. So hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. Excuse my ignorance of not knowing about Manhunter being the first of the Hannibal, the true first of the Hannibal Lecter series. I'm gonna do things the right way. We're gonna start with Manhunter. I know I gotta start a little bit with the Sounds of the Lamb film, but I did not. I had to look it up a little bit. I'm like, yeah, it don't feel right if I don't start with it. Especially here talking about it though. So it's right. I do it the right way. So let's do Manhunter first. Let's get it.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies and show you how they were made. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at Manhunter, released in 1986. I'll be honest with you right away, this isn't really a horror movie, but it does include the first screen appearance of Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a horror icon, and I said I'd include it when I ran that poll a couple of years ago where the Hannibal series won. At long last, I am honoring the results of that poll, so for the next month, get ready for an extended stay in Hannibal Land. I'll be looking at Manhunter, The Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, Red Dragon, and Hannibal Rising. I won't be covering the TV show, which I know is great, but I don't think some of you realize how much work TV shows are. The runtime of one season of Hannibal is equivalent to 6 90-minute movies. I don't have that time. Manhunter is adapted from Red Dragon, the first book in Thomas Harris's Hannibal Lecter series. It follows Will Graham, a former FBI agent who comes out of retirement to help catch a serial killer known as the Tooth Fairy. Graham is a criminal profiler with a borderline psychic ability to put himself in the mindset of a killer. But when an overactive imagination isn't enough, he's forced to consult the last criminal he put away, Dr. Hannibal Lecter. This movie is much less known.
I thought Will Pearson. Wow, that's him back there with the little voice. Yeah, I remember him a lot of stuff. I didn't know some back then. Wow.
Than the mega hit and multi-Oscar winning Silence of the Lambs. You may even be surprised to find a different actor playing Hannibal. Instead of Sir Anthony Hopkins, we've got Brian Cox. And if you don't like that, well, you can just fuck off! But it's more than just casting that separates Manhunter from Silence. Stylistically, they're worlds apart, with Manhunter a slow-paced, ruminative, film noirish nightmare. A noirmare! It was written and directed by Michael Mann, an American filmmaker best known for his action films, which include The Insider and friggin' Heat. Manhunter is an early film of his, before his massive hit The Last of the Mohicans, and he infuses it with hard-boiled characters and a synthy soundtrack that fucking rips. It's pulpy as the orange juice I buy. It's Hannibal by way of Miami Vice, which isn't surprising since Mann produced the show and made the feature adaptation in 2006. Honestly, I'm kind of obsessed with Manhunter. I can see why it'd be too slow and lingering for some viewers, but it's beautiful to look at and a delight to listen to. Anyone who enjoys the dreamy, languid feel of something like Mandy should definitely check this out. I love the procedural elements of it, and that we're watching many procedures behind good police work. This is pre-DNA testing, so we get long scenes of gumshoe work like fingerprint matching and spectral analysis. It's kind of like Mindhunter in that sense, showing police work with an incomplete understanding of their subjects.
Psychologists call them.
This time I went through a little bit of the after the last one, but kind of skip this one.
Yeah. They don't know what else to call them.
Yeah, because it's 1986 and they're still using DSM-3. Finally, the movie's anchored by fantastic performances from William Peterson as Will Graham and Tom Noonan as the man he's hunting. Well, Michael Mann's... Another one?
So, yeah, I'm on... Excuse me. Tom Noonan. Oh, hey, Tom Noonan. Who's he in? Oh, shit, came from RoboCop, too. Wow. He's tall as fuck, ain't he? Like 6'5", yup. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna skip this unfortunately since I kind of started the last one with the ad. So let's get to it.
Will Michael Mann's Manhunter manage to manhandle a bunch of kills onto the count? Man, I can't wait to find out. The movie begins with a sinister-looking home video, but it ain't Bagul this lady's waking up to, it's a title card! Opening credits give way to a Florida beach where we find retired FBI agent Will Graham. He's joined by his old friend Jack Crawford, who's in charge of the FBI's behavioral science unit. Will has been living a civilian life for years, but Crawford needs him for one last case. It's a familiar trope, but unlike the grizzled loners of Rambo lore and Key and Peele sketches, Will is content in his retirement. He loves hanging out with his son Kevin and having steamy beachside sex with his wife Molly. It's an idyllic family life that nicely sets up Will as a character with a lot to lose. But this latest serial killer, called the Tooth Fairy, kills families that might as well be Will's own.
Let me see. Kim Grace, that sounds like what's your on? Cause she looks familiar. Hold on, man, I guess. And the son Kenny, is he anybody or no? Anyway.
He strikes during full moons, and since another is almost here, Crawford successfully pressures Will into helping them out. His first stop is Atlanta, the site of the most recent murders. Armed with a tape recorder, he ventures upstairs and makes a brilliant discovery. Something bad happened here. Specifically, the murders of the Leeds family. We saw Mrs. Leeds waking up in the opening, and now that we're seeing their blood at the crime scene, I'll go ahead and put the entire family on the count. Mr., Mrs., and their 3 young boys, all of whom are seen in video form later on. Will records a VO narrating the grisly details of the murder, and in a rare case, it works when the movie tells instead of shows.
Direction and velocity of bloodstains on east wall indicate arterial spray. Even with his throat cut, Leeds tried to fight because the intruder was moving to the children's room.
He washes the taste of murder out of his mouth and retires to his hotel room, where he goes over the victim's home videos. Will's the kind of guy who can put himself in the mindset of a killer, diving to the creepy depths it takes him.
God, she's lovely, isn't she? It was maddening to have to touch her with rubber gloves on.
He realizes the killer might have taken off his gloves since there was talcum powder found on the scene. Only problem is, the local police didn't find any fingerprints.
Our people swear he wore surgeon's gloves the whole time. They dusted everything.
Oh yeah? Well, maybe they shouldn't be taking orders from someone who's been fingerprinted. The Atlanta PD aren't idiots. They've reconstructed the killer's chompers based on bite marks found on the victims. But Will insists on bringing in another fingerprint specialist, who winds up finding prints on the victim's eyelids. And Crawford is very proud of Will for showing the locals what's what. Will's no stranger to good detective work. Actor William Peterson is probably best known as Gil Grissom in CSI and CSI Vegas. Meanwhile, Crawford is played by the late Dennis Farina, a guy who always enhances anything he pops.
Question is, let me try to figure, is that him right there? And so then, wow. No, he's on there, but wow. So you got Stephen Lang on there, and Stephen Lang, if you don't know, is from the Don't Breathe series. So wow, I'm trying to figure what the guy with the long face is, but I guess he'll tell me.
What's up in? Glad man cast him.
The reason we're doing this movie is because this man's out of a job.
Outside the station, Will is hounded by Freddie Lowndes, a sleazy journalist
there you
who runs
go.
a tabloid called
That's
The
Stephen
Tabloid.
Lang.
So, how does this guy compare with Lecter? Huh? What does he do to him? How's he doing?
Instead of a comment, Will gives an off-the-record beatdown and straight up body slams Lowndes into a car windshield. My God. That They Live level of violence may feel like an overreaction, but during his last case, Freddie Lowndes exploited Will while he was hospitalized. That goofy-looking sleaze snuck into the hospital room and published pictures of Will in a coma. That last case was Hannibal Lecter's, turns out, and since he's short on leads, or, not the family, Will reluctantly visits the man who caused him to retire 3 years ago.
That's the same atrocious aftershave you wore in court 3 years ago.
With the Tooth Fairy weighing heavily on Kilogram's mind, he hopes the good doctor can provide some psycho insight. Not gonna be that easy to get Handy Boy to go along with his plan though, since he sees through him right away.
You came here to look at me. To get the old scent back again, didn't you?
Wow.
Will decides to end their session early, but not before Lecter Roy delivers some cutting remarks.
The reason you caught me, Will, is you're just alike. You want the scent? Smell yourself.
Smell you later! Will flees from the unsolicited psychoanalysis by running full speed
Always like
through
seeing
the
like early roles of folks that I'm known for them, but for their older roles like him and Brian Cox as well too.
building. I freaking love these
And
shots
Stephen
of him
Lang.
sprinting back and forth along the walkways, which was filmed at the Richard Myers High Museum of Art in Atlanta. It perfectly conveys the panic attack Will experiences after the visit. While Graham sucks air, the skeezy Freddie Lowndes snaps pictures of him from his car. Will's face is plastered across newsstands and
Wait, point out
time,
he's from-
exposing him as working
from,
on the case and contacting Hannibal. In his
the
cell,
Wing.
Lecter requests a phone call with his lawyer, but uses the foil wrapping from a stick of gum to hack his phone and reroute the call. He manages to call Will's psychiatrist and sweet talks the secretary into giving him a home address.
Well, zip that little pointer right on down to the letter G.
All right.
The name we're looking for, last name Graham. The man the book is supposed to be sent to, a Mr. Will Graham.
Friggin' 80s, man. It was so much easier to be a serial killer. Manhunter's Hannibal Lecter is very different than the Hopkins portrayal. It's even spelled different, ending with a K-T-O-R, which this one dude hits pretty hard.
Dr. Lecter.
Haha, friggin' Lector! Better hope he doesn't call in Cyrax to help. The character is played by Brian Cox, last seen on the kill count as Mr. Krieg in Trick or Treat, and now best known for Succession. Cox based his performance on Scottish-American serial killer Peter Manuel, and auditioned with his back turned to the casting agents, since they felt the character's voice would be more important than his appearance. If his Hannibal is jarring to you after knowing the Hopkins version, you've got to remember this is the first time the character ever appeared on screen.
Hannibal Lecter, you know, I did it first. You know, I was there first.
Hopkins hams it up in Silence of the Lambs, and even more so in later appearances, after the character had become a full-on horror icon, even kind of a slasher killer. In contrast, Cox's Hannibal is much more human and way less lascivious. You don't see him trying to be creepy like Hopkins. He seems more like a real human being, albeit a messed up one, who's trying to act like a normal person even though he isn't.
Evil, real evil, is something that is so scaringly normal that it becomes really nasty.
The two portrayals are different enough that they don't have to be compared, but if you twisted my arm, I might say that I prefer the compelling, subdued version from Cox. They filmed the Lecter Graham scenes on this pristine white set, so Cox's subtle facial expressions would stand out more. They spent 3 days on the scenes, a long time for how short they are, but it allowed Cox to get comfortable playing the character. Will travels to Alabama to visit the scene of the first murders, the Jacoby family, but since we never get a bloody crime scene, I'm not gonna put him on the count. He discovers evidence of some stakeout snacking beneath a nearby tree, and when he climbs it, he finds a missing branch and a view that gets him good and riled up.
You saw the lights go out one by one. And after a while, you climbed down and you went into them, didn't you? Didn't you, you son of a bitch? You watched them all goddamn day long.
I think Peterson is perfect as the reluctant but determined and very troubled Will Graham. It's not easy to sell a character who spends so much time by himself, talking to himself, but he pulls it off. That's chaos theory. It's determined that the branch was cut with a bolt cutter, which is
I'm kind of glad I watched this one first, man.
Unusual, but before Will can dwell on that more, a guard at Lecter's asylum finds a lavatory letter in his cell. The TP telegram appears to be written by the Tooth Fairy and includes some cannibal fanboying.
I know that you alone can understand what I am becoming.
He also doesn't appreciate the moniker bestowed upon him.
The Tooth Fairy. What could be more inappropriate?
They don't have the whole letter, though. A torn-off portion at the bottom must have included the instructions for Lecter's reply. This is one of many sequences that's great to watch in the movie, but doesn't translate well to the kill count format, which is, of course, why I always say this show is not a substitute for watching the film. They only have 4 hours to analyze and decrypt this thing without Lecter figuring out that they found it. It's fun to watch them race against the clock using the tools at their disposal, like microscopes, lasers, and wait, Chris Elliott? Oh, good.
Wow.
Take his strong hand. Elliot plays Brian Zeller, a blink and you miss him character in this movie, but one from the books who would have a much larger role in the NBC series Hannibal. Same goes for other glorified background characters here, like Beverly Katz and Will's psychiatrist, Dr. Sidney Bloom. The latter is played by Paul Perry, who was the Puzzle-averse Edwards in Hellraiser Bloodlines. They deduce that Lecter will post his response in the personal ad section of the Tadler. It's a promising lead, but the code is too tough to crack, so they can't figure out what the Tooth Fairy's asking for. Since they don't want to tip off either killer, Will decides to let Hannibal's response run and risk the consequences.
And what if it encourages the Tooth Fairy to do something else beside right?
We'll all feel sick for a very long time.
Will decides he'll use himself as bait to try to catch the Tooth Fairy. He visits Freddie Lounge for a front-page photo together with identifiable landmarks in the background and tries to rouse the killer's ire with an article implying he's gay.
He's molested all of his male victims. He may be impotent with members of the opposite sex.
Oh, come on, brah. I'm sure he's not gay. I bet he gets, like, tons of action with members of the opposite sex. This charge isn't just them talking to the Tooth Fairy like they were on Xbox Live. Dr. Bloom assumes it's a specific insecurity.
He put the shorts on Charles Leeds after he was dead. I believe he did this to make sure we wouldn't think he was gay.
After the issue goes out, Will wanders around the area, hoping the Tooth Fairy will try to jump him. Awesome shots here with this exterior setting, but the only person they wind up catching is an innocent jogger, who's very confused by what's happening.
What you moving in slow motion for, man? I'm being mugged.
The real Tooth Fairy is in Chicago kidnapping Freddie Lowndes, whom he lifts clean off the ground in an impressive feat of strength. Dude must be on that Michael Myers regiment. Lowndes wakes up in an eclectic living room and is so scared to look at his kidnapper that he keeps his eyes closed even after his blindfold is removed. It's a thematic contrast to Will's willingness to see through the eyes of a murderer, and also works as fun inadvertent foreshadowing for actor Stephen Lang, who would go on to play the blind man in the Don't Breathe movies. I still can't believe this goofy asshole wound up playing characters that are so fucking terrifying. How is this the same person? When he finally opens his eyes.
It's crazy about you say about a lot of folks. If you see some of their past characters, well, to hell. If you see past stuff of Terrence Howard before, like Walter Flow and all that, you wouldn't think he's saying out playing these characters well too, or many others. So yeah, hell, even Bryan Cranston, you would think he's from Malcolm in the Middle to Breaking Benjamin. Breaking Habit. Oh, we go. That's right. Breaking Bad. I'm tripping. Anyway, Breaking Bad is a damn band. Anyway, let's keep going.
Lowndes is greeted by a sight he doesn't want to see.
Well, here I am.
1 hour in, we finally get to see the Tooth Fairy, or as he prefers to be called,
The Great Red Dragon.
While it's mentioned here as brief, William Blake's painting is a much bigger part in the original novel. We'll see that more when Ray Fiennes plays the character in the 2002 adaptation Red Dragon. Manhunter was also supposed to be titled Red Dragon, like its source material, but producer Dino De Laurentiis allegedly changed it after his similarly titled Year of the Dragon bombed at the box office. Not everyone liked the title change.
Manhunter sounds like...
Was that Ricky's head?
It's a very cheesy title in many ways.
The Tooth Fairy's mad that Lowndes insinuated he's gay, so he forces his captive to record a message denouncing the article and warning Will Graham that he's next. Then the killer dons a set of fake teeth and bites into Freddy's face, revealing that those bite marks they've been gathering have been all for naught. Freddy's fate is shown the next morning when a security guard witnesses this nightmare of a jackass stunt. Lowndes dies from his burns later in the hospital, adding another notch to the Tooth Fairy's belt. Crawford informs Will that the team's figured out what Lecter's message was. Will's home address, along with a chilling instruction.
Save yourself, kill them all.
Bet you regret running the ad now, don't you, Will? Molly and Kevin are moved to a safe house where Will's son seems apprehensive about his dad's mental state. He read about his stay in a psychiatric hospital in the Tadler, so Will confronts the problem head on with a cereal aisle one-on-one. Will tells his son about Hannibal Lecter,
the Kellogg cereals back then. Jesus
a
Christ.
famous psychiatrist who Will consulted during a previous case.
Body
While
buddies?
talking to him, Graham figured out that Lecter was the man.
Like when I see stuff like that, it's always crazy to see some nostalgia like logos and classic cereals that's obscure now, man. Wow, Fiber One, the old school Toto.
And he was looking for a killer who murdered several of his college girl therapy clients. When Will discovered this, Lecter nearly killed him, scarring him physically and mentally. Will explains that he had to take time to get his head right, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I adore this scene, because it cements Will Graham as a noble character and a positive male role model. The detective who thinks like a serial killer is a common character archetype, but they're usually jaded and mean, oftentimes absent fathers and withholding husbands. This version of Will Graham is a tortured soul, but above all is a good man. He just knows he's great at his job, which is why he can't help but take on the case. He might be the only one who can bring down this monster.
This killing, it's gotta stop.
At the same time, Will is tender and apologetic towards his wife and emotionally honest with his son.
You and Mom
beat the cheeks of his wife, though.
Came to see me in the hospital, and that helped a lot. But after my body got okay, I still had his thoughts going around in my head. And a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Bloom, asked me to get some help. And I did.
His perspective on mental health also gives him a more nuanced understanding of the killer he's trying to track down.
My heart bleeds for him as a child. Someone took a kid and manufactured a monster. At the same time, as an adult, he's irredeemable.
We take a break from Will being a good dad to follow the Tooth Fairy, who in his civilian life is a man named Francis Dollarhide. Dollarhide works in a film lab where he's markedly less confident, partially due to his cleft palate. A technician named Reba doesn't notice though, because she's blind, prompting Dollarhide to try his hand at asking her out.
Right as me. It would be because I would like...
Yeah, man, so I guess he made so look older too, 'cause, you know, he's not that old, Noonan, right? Around this time he ain't there, because because he's a lot younger. He's a little bit younger on RoboCop 2.
It's a little stiff, but Reba likes his forwardness, so she agrees. Already, you're worried about this poor woman, and even more so when Francis says he wants.
Sorry, recognize her. Hold on. Yep, Joe and Alan. That's all I thought. Wow.
To make a surprise stop. It turns out he takes her to pet a tiger? What the fuck? Why didn't anyone say the Tooth Fairy got mad game? Seriously, dude takes a chick to meet a real motherfucking tiger on their first date? How are any of us supposed to compare to that? You're raising the bar too high, Tooth Fairy. We don't all have exotic animal vet hookups or whatever's going on here. Production brought in a real ass tiger for this scene from a local Atlanta zoo. It was awake but anesthetized, obviously, and actress Joan Allen was truly moved by being able to touch it. Allen puts in a great performance as Reba. To prepare for the role, she researched at a New York school for the blind and practiced doing things blindfolded. Francis takes Reba home, where he reviews a video of the next family he plans to kill without his sightless spit-swapping partner ever knowing. They wind up going to bed together, and the intimate experience moves the killer, overwhelming him with emotion at the feeling of someone touching his lips. Dollarhide is played by Tom Noonan, who prepared for scenes by sitting alone in the dark. They also kept separate from the rest of the cast until their characters met, meaning he and Will Peterson didn't meet until the final night of production.
We went out to breakfast, and we sat and had pancakes.
Wow.
And he was just this lovely, sweet man.
His performance is a highlight of the film. Noonan provides a haunting...
You would not think that with the characters you play. I told you, he's best known for this. He played, other than this, he's best known playing Kane on RoboCop 2. If you know RoboCop 2, yeah. He was worse than the first guy. And he was on Last Action Hero as the Grim Reaper.
Presence and an imposing size, standing 6'5". While a new sun rises over this fledgling romance, Will Graham is still trying to find his man. He thankfully calls up Handy Boy again, letting this movie get coxed up one last time. Lecter brings up an incident where Will shot and killed a murderer named Garrett Jacob Hobbs. He accuses Will of enjoying the kill and waxes philosophical about the pleasure of taking a life.
It feels good, Will, because God has power. And if one does what God does enough times, one will become as God is.
This tidbit inspires Will to revisit the crime scene, this time fully placing himself in the mindset of the murderer.
I step into the room. I see you there. And I see me desired by you.
It's a wonderfully surreal sequence, akin to NBC's handling of the character nearly 3 decades later. Will better get a move on though, because Dollarhide's Red Dragon is beginning to stir. He waits outside Reba's house to surprise her, where he sees her getting face rubs from their co-worker Ralph, and that gets him void your car warranty angry. This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, devoid of dialogue and playing out almost like a music video for the song Strong As I Am by the Prime Movers. I've been listening to that thing on repeat for the past few weeks. Turns out Francis is just overly paranoid. Who'd have guessed? Because Ralph wasn't making out with Reba, he was picking a piece of pollen off her face. But it's too late for Dollarhide, who slips back into old habits. He approaches Ralph as he's leaving and guns the poor guy down in his front yard. He then makes his way inside, where he announces that Dollarhide is now forever dollar hidden away.
Francis is gone forever.
Will's building a better profile of the Tooth Fairy, but he's still at a loss for how he chooses his victims. With the full moon already in the sky, Crawford thinks another round of murders is inevitable, but Will suddenly notices some things on the tapes he's watching.
You gotta love the 80s atmosphere, man. Look at the whole scenery, this. It's pure, the whole scenery is pure 80s though. Like the moonlight, the ambiance, everything is just pure 80s, man. It's not like you just watch. It's like everything. I know it's 1980s, but it's just how pure 80s this is though, with the ambiance and everything.
The killer operated based on information that wouldn't have been knowable from the outside, like bringing that bolt cutter for an interior padlock. As the synthy soundtrack swells, Graham realizes the Tooth Fairy must have watched these very
a cop's office, but look how 80s it looked. Though,
same home videos.
You've seen these
films.
films.
Monitor it was 80-wise.
It's another incredible scene thanks to Peterson's performance and the track Graham's Theme by composer Michel Rubini. It reminds me of Duran Duran's Ordinary World. This climactic moment took dozens of takes, reportedly as many as 40.
If you watch American Psycho, it takes place in the 80s. It's got that same kind of ambiance and stuff like that. It's crazy. Hope I say the right words. Now, the scenery is just crazy.
Bill was so fatigued in doing this over and over again that in the end, he was himself. It was a very truthful, way of saying the lines.
Mann was such an obsessive director, he was adjusting the film's audio mix down to the day of its premiere. He was particular about everything, even the ties the background actors wore.
What is different about this?
The ties.
In an earlier scene, Mann had crew members at the hotel across the street ride the elevators at exactly the right time to get the lights he wanted in the background of the shot. His crew couldn't always keep up with his demands, which would come to a head near the end of production.
He's the kind of director, though, he could shoot like 20 hours a day and sleep 4 hours and come back and shoot. I mean, he, you know, crew members were like keeling over left and right.
They figure out that both families had their home videos processed at Gateway Labs in St. Louis, which is where Francis Dollarhide works. They hop on a plane to Missouri, and Will plays a game of driver's license Guess Who with St. Louis PD Lieutenant Fisk. Fisk is played by Frankie Faison, who I best know as the opportunistic Burrell from The Wire. We'll be seeing him a bunch in the Hopkinsverse movies as Hannibal Lecter's orderly Barney. Fisk matches Dollarhide with a physical description of the killer, although his driver's license photo looks more Zordon than Zodiac. The police race to Dollarhide's house, looking like they're speeding to a Santa Carla cliffside. Will advises them to turn off their headlights to mask their approach, which turns out to be a bad idea since both cars crash almost immediately. What the fuck happened there? Did y'all hit a banana peel or something? Refusing to wait for backup, Will charges forward like the loose cannon he is, hoping to stop Dollarhide from claiming another victim. The killer has brought Reba to his home, where he's confused her senses by blaring the psychedelic hit In the Garden of Eden by Iron Butterfly. An 8-minute cut down of the song plays as Will heads towards them and reaches its climax as he slow motion crashes through a window. It's completely badass.
That's some
Francis is a hulking man,
badassness
so
right
catches
there.
Will and throws him into a nearby fridge. Then he, all right, never mind. I guess Will's done for now. Tom Noonan had a pretty intense on-set workout so he could manhandle a Manhunter.
I was doing like 50 push-ups between each take, like doing take after take after take.
Arming himself with a shotgun, Dollarhide kicks his way into the living room and promptly wastes one cop trying to hold him at gunpoint. His buddy manages to get off a couple of shots before Dollarhide sends him flying down the stairs with another shotgun blast. The killer doubles back into the kitchen to finish off Will, but it's gonna take more than an icebox to take down this ice-cold agent. Will manages to gun down Dollarhide during a choppy, jump cut-filled shootout. The killer dies in a pool of his own blood. It's spread referencing the wings of the dragon he was so obsessed with. This climactic shootout is a shift to action that might feel a little janky, what with all the jump cuts and blood spurts. But that's because by the time they shot it, most of the crew had already left production, including the entire special effects team.
Yeah, everybody left. The crew was all leaving. They were burned out.
Mann had his remaining crew simulate blood splatters by blowing ketchup through hoses and bullet impacts by straight up throwing glass jars around on set, one of which left a shard embedded in Peterson's thigh. He had to go get stitches at a hospital before returning to finish the shoot. And if it seems like an abrupt end to the killer, that's because it kind of is. In the book, Dollarhide's kidnapping of Reba is only the first step in a much more extensive endgame, which we'll get to see when we cover Red Dragon. The movie ends a short time later in a gratefully happy ending, with Will Graham enjoying his wife, his son, and his short shorts on the beach. How many men and...
Y'all do love when movies like they have good endings, man. Happy endings for the antagonist, the protagonist for sure, man, for sure.
Women were hunted down and killed? Let's find out and blast our way to the numbers.
Is that the way it's playing? Is that the shirt he had on? I just peeped that. Nah, it wasn't. Okay, but still, it was one of the shirts he had on. Hey, yeah, it was. All right, closely.
10 people died in Manhunter, since I didn't count the Jacobys due to lack of bloody crime scene. The victims I counted consisted of 9 men and 1 woman, giving us a very blue dragon pie chart. We've seen this count and gender breakdown in 3 other movies on this show: Leprechaun in the Hood, Terror Train, and Tammy and the T-Rex. Man, that movie was fun. And with a runtime of 120 minutes, Manhunter had a kill on average every 12 minutes even. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Freddy Lounge. The sequence leading up to it is the scariest part of this not quite horror movie, and the flaming wheelchair kill is disturbing and, frankly, just looks really cool. Dollar Machete for lamest kill will go to that first policeman Dollarhide shoots. Why was he just standing there? Shoot-ah! And that's it. Manhunter was released in 1986 and bombed both with critics and at the box office. It's since developed a cult following, but is nowhere near as popular as The Silence of the Lambs, which I'll be looking at next week. Until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count.
On the next Kill Count.
Hello, Clarice.
So you go back to the next.
I hear you're wondering why we've taken so long to cover the only horror film to win a Best Picture Oscar.
Yes, very much, sir. Very much.
It was due to a confluence of various factors, some outside of our control.
Tedious. Very tedious.
But none of that matters now, Clarice. All that matters is we're finally kill counting The Silence of the Lambs.
Sounds charming.
It is! Silence of the Lambs introduces the Anthony Hopkins version of Hannibal Lecter, a performance that quickly tongue-flicked its way into cinematic history. But he's only one flavor in this delicious masterpiece of a film that also features an unhinged serial killer with a cute dog, Roger Corman in a quick cameo,
Cool.
and Clarice Starling, one of the best protagonists of all time, thanks to an incredible performance by Jodie Foster.
Are you hitting on me, Doctor?
What? No, I mean, you're obviously very cute, but I was talking about your acting. It's really good.
Thank you, sir.
The Silence of the Lambs is iconic in every sense of the word, with countless moments and lines that have been parodied and referenced for the past 3 decades.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
So this week, put on your Sunday best.
Love your suit.
And treat yourself to the classic that is The Silence of the Lambs. Then on Friday, look out for the Kill Count, only on Dead Meat.
I'll be watching. You'll do fine.
The Silence of the Lambs can currently be watched on the pictured streaming platforms. Dead Meat always recommends you watch the movie for yourself before its kill count. It's the only way to have your own properly informed opinion. Kill counts are never meant to replace the experience of watching a film.
Thanks a lot for watching the Kill Count for Manhunter. We're finally doing the Hannibal series. Hopefully, I'm so proud of the show.
So I apologize for starting off ready to start with Silence because I didn't know that Manhunter was part of it as well too. That's my own ignorance as well too. I think somebody did kind of mention that. I'm not sure, but at the same time, hold on. Let me check my comments real quick. Some of my videos. All right, give me a second. Somebody said Renegade react to something and not Manhunter with the actual homeward bound. So some reason I should have put that together, but that's on me. But either way, I will check out Silence of the Lambs next time as well too. On my next free time, or I probably will be my thing going forward. Other than that, be my new free week as well too. This free week's now will be added as the Silence of the Lamb week. Well, Hannibal week now. So other than that, sorry, I still have to check this though. Anyway, if you like my reaction, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's your boy T-Bird signing off. Again, sorry for giving the pump thing on Silent Land, not knowing that I should have did Manhunter first. Anyway, it's your boy T-Bird signing off. One love.